Hey, what's up everybody? Brian Dean here. As you may have seen, I recently launched a new tool called Exploding Topics. And in this video, I'm gonna reveal the entire story. What this thing actually is, why I bought it, and the future plans, including lots of behind the scenes stuff. Stay tuned. So a few months ago, Backlinko's CTO, Lloyd, sent me a link to something called trend.co. This is a tool that someone had built to bubble up trends across different industries. And around that time, I wanted to build something similar. In fact, we even had a very early prototype of something that attempted to do basically the same thing that Trend did. But Trend was light years ahead of what we had built or even what we had aimed to build. So I emailed the creator of Trend, Josh, to see if he might be open to selling the site. And about a week later, we hopped on Skype. As it turned out, we both had the same vision for the tool. And on that first call, we mapped out the terms for a deal. And those terms were this. For the tool itself, I'd pay Josh the equivalent of a year's salary as a full-time developer. Josh had spent about 6 months building the tool, so this gave him a 2x return on his time. He would also get a significant cut of any future revenue that the tool brought in. That way, Josh got some of the upside if things took off. The final term is that I'd work with Josh as a contractor for 6 months so he could continue building up the tool. And after sending the money his way, the site was transferred to Backlinko. The question was, what should be my next move? Well, one of the first things I wanted to work on was the site's branding and design. At the time, the site's domain was trend.co, which was super hard to spell or remember. I'd have to say things like, yeah, it's trend, but with 2 N's, and no, it's not a .com, it's a CO. So yeah, the name wasn't bad, but it was kind of hard to say or share with people. In fact, as the deal was going down, I told a few close friends that I was buying the site. And it was a huge pain to explain the name of the site that I was about to buy. So priority number 1 was a new name and brand. Originally, Josh and I wanted to play off the word trend. The tool's job was to surface trends, so that made sense. The thing was, there are already 2 popular newsletters out there, Glimpse and The Hustle Trends, that were designed to surface trends. And I didn't want to go head to head against these established brands. Plus, our audience was different than The Hustle or Glimpse. The target market for Glimpse are VCs and people that invest in new companies. And The Hustle Trends targets people that are new to entrepreneurship. Our target audience? Content creators like bloggers and YouTubers that want to find growing topics before they take off. So instead of becoming the third surface that offered up growing trends, we were the first to find emerging topics. Next, we had to come up with a new name for the site, a name that complemented our new branding and our target audience. I personally prefer to always go with the .com, even if that means the name's gonna be a little bit on the longer side. I can live with that if it's a .com. And after baiting a couple different name ideas, we eventually decided on explodingtopics.com. To me, the name was perfect because it described exactly what the tool did. Plus, the .com was available. The next step was to get a new design for the website. As you've seen already from shots that I showed you of trend.co, the old site wasn't bad looking or anything, and the UI was actually pretty strong. That's because the user interface did its job, which is to help people find new trends. So we didn't need a wholesale change to the layout or anything like that, just an updated and upgraded design. So I worked with our designer Matt to come up with a refreshed version of the design. And he turned the original design into this. A massive difference. With the design out of the way, it was time to launch the thing. Josh and I picked our launch date, December 3rd. And Josh and I teamed up to spread the word on launch day. Josh focused on telling the story of how his startup got acquired after 6 months. And he shared that story on the Entrepreneur subreddit, Medium, and Hacker News. My focus was letting the Backlinko community know about exploding topics. So I shared it on social media and sent out an announcement to Backlinko email subscribers. Both approaches worked well and they complemented each other. In fact, someone from Medium reached out to Josh to feature his story on their new Maker blog, which was pretty cool. And all in all, the Backlinko community seemed to really like exploding topics. So far, so good. But our biggest win and our biggest focus on launch day was Product Hunt. We ended up getting #1 product of the day on Product Hunt, which is cool, and it brought in quite a bit of traffic. So all in all, launch day went really well. Between the email list, social media, Product Hunt, and Medium, we got 25,000 visitors on the first day, which is kind of insane for a new site. Obviously, traffic quickly started to drop after that, but it didn't go to zero. This is an important point. Back in the trend.co days, Josh got a few traffic spikes, for example, when Rand Fishkin and Peter Levels tweeted about it. But that spike would quickly fade and traffic would then drop to practically zero. This showed that people thought the tool was cool, but it wasn't really developed enough to get long-term traction. For that to happen, we needed to make the tool better and do a coordinated launch, which we did. So once the buzz of the launch started to die down, we needed to figure out what are the next steps. Should we go hard with Facebook ads or focus on adding more topics? Or maybe we should write descriptions for the topics that we already had. The options for our next step were pretty much endless, which is good and bad. It's good because it's fun to start something new from scratch. It's bad because it's really easy to fall into the paralysis by analysis trap. So instead of just randomly choosing a direction, we decided to look at the feedback that people sent us during the launch and decided to prioritize that. For example, a lot of people complained that our search feature was broken. It wasn't, but it also wasn't really clear how it worked. Unlike a traditional search bar, our search is for finding topics that are already in our database, but that wasn't really obvious. So Josh added a little error message that made this much more clear. Also, a lot of people specifically requested an email newsletter. In other words, they didn't want to have to keep checking in to see if we added new topics. They wanted them delivered to their inbox. And the numbers back this up. Despite having a newsletter link buried in the footer of the site, lots of people were still signing up for the newsletter. So one of the first things we did was start a real newsletter called Exploding Topics Tuesday. This newsletter is a curated list of our best, most interesting exploding topics, plus insight and analysis. So that's kind of where we are right now. And in terms of future plans for exploding topics, we have a few cool things in the pipeline. First, we need to add more sources. How Exploding Topics works is that it monitors searches, conversations, and shopping results around the web, and it identifies topics that are taking off. So the more sources we source from, the more topics we should be able to find. Second, we need to improve the behind the scenes tech. Right now, when it comes to the data that comes in, the signal to noise ratio is out of whack, which makes it harder for us to find legit topics that people can create content around. So we need to improve the algorithm for sources that we already use. So yeah, that's it when it comes to exploding topics. I realized the other day that I kind of launched this thing out of nowhere. So I wanted to explain how this whole thing went down so you can learn from it. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel right now. Just click on the subscribe button. Also, I'd like to hear from you. Do you have any feedback on how we can make exploding topics better? If so, I want to know. So go ahead and leave a quick comment below right now.